Okay, so today's word comes out of John chapter 11, and this is the death of Lazarus. So you can get your Bibles out, push pause, and then come back to it so you can read it along with me. So let's start at verse 3. So the sister sent word to Jesus, Lord, the one you love is sick. When he heard this, Jesus said, this sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory so that God's Son may be glorified through it. Stop right there. So the Lord had already spoke a word. Jesus had already released the word. You see, as they sent the word to Jesus, upon that, Jesus releases the word. He says, this sickness will not end in death. No matter what happened after that, the people should have been able to bank on the fact that the Lord released a word. And because the Lord said it, it must come true. It must manifest itself. So regardless of what happened prior to that word being released or after that word being released, that this thing must happen as Jesus had declared it. Jesus has declared a word over your life. Jesus has spoken something to you. That thing must happen. I don't care what it looks like. Do not lean on your own understanding. Do not lean on your own natural sight, but cling to the word of the Lord. That's why he released it. So no matter what happened in your life, no matter what is happening in your life, you can cling to the word of the Lord because it must come to pass. You see, when we go a little further, it says, now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. And then he said to his disciples, let us go back to Judea. So understand this emphasis on love. They said the one who you love is sick because Jesus loved Martha and Mary and Lazarus. Because he loved them, he stayed 2 more days. You see, understand what the Lord is doing with you. It is because of this great thing the Lord wants to do in your life. It is not indicative of the lack of a lack of love in which he has for you, the time in which he's taking to be able to have these promises manifest in your life, to deliver on these promises. Some people will doubt the Lord's love and his care and his compassion for you because of the time that he's taking. You just don't understand. There's something greater that's happening in your life, and the Lord wants to use your life as a testimony for others. And we're going to find out why that is. We go on a little further. It says, but Rabbi, they said, a short while ago, Jews were trying to stone you, and yet you are going back? And yet you are going back? See, Jesus don't spoke a word. This thing is going to happen. So you know we're going to get there. You know we're going to be able to accomplish what it is that I've said I'm going to do. So that means you don't have to worry about us being harmed. You are with Jesus. You are with God himself in the flesh. Why would you second guess? Why would you question? Why would you doubt? I've already said this thing is going to happen. So we going to make it to ensuring that this thing happens because I spoke it and it must. But we're going to come back and revisit that in a little bit. Now he says, verse 11, and he said this, he went on to tell them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm going there to wake him up. His disciples replied, Lord, if he sleeps, he will get better. Jesus had been speaking of his death, but his disciples thought he meant natural sleep. Again, they're leaning on their own understanding. They're leaning on their own experience. They're leaning on how they see things. And they are not relying on this word that God had already released. So then he told them plainly, Lazarus is not dead, and for your sake, I am glad I was not there so that you may believe. But let us go to him. Then Thomas also known as Didymus, said to the rest of the disciples, let us also go that we may die with them. Again, Jesus has went through all of this and he is under the assumption that they gonna die. So they have already resigned to death. Don't you resign to death in your life, no matter what it looks like, no matter what your understanding of the situation is, no matter what it is that you see. You need to hang on to the word that the Lord gave you. Some of you all are already sinking into and are coming into agreement with death in your life, that things will not be restored, that things will not come back to you as the way the Lord promised, that the Lord will not come through on his promises that he gave to you. You need to rely on your word and not on the understanding. Do not resign to death. Resign to the one who provides abundant life, right? Which is the Lord. Because Martha, listen to what she says. If you had been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now, God will give you whatever it is that you ask. Your brother, Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. You see, even with this, Martha, she's acknowledging the reality of her situation. Martha is dead, and even her own feelings about it. Or Lazarus is dead, even her own feelings about it. My brother would not have died if you had been here. But she goes beyond her own understanding into who Christ is. But even now, God will give you what you ask. You see, you need to go beyond what it is that you see and go into who it is that the Lord is, who it is that the Lord to be. He says, he has to remind her, I know your brother will rise again. Martha answered, I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. No, again, she's relying on her own understanding, her own experience, and she's not leaning into what the Lord is doing at this moment in time. He says, Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they will die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this? It is for her belief. It is all about belief. So the disciples will believe. So those that are watching will believe. So Martha and Mary, so that they will believe. What is it that you believe today? Will you believe in who Christ is and what he's spoken over your life? You see, Mary comes and Mary says that, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. And she stops there. Now, this is Mary who poured perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. This is Mary who was in the right position, not Martha, but stayed at his feet while Martha was running around busy doing all the stuff. See, it goes to show that just because you are in position, that you stay in the presence of the Lord, that you are following the Lord, that you are worshiping the Lord, that when hardship, difficulty, and challenge come, that you will believe in who you've known the Lord to be and who you've seen him to be in this moment. This is when your faith is challenged, where you need to rise the most, and you need to apply what it is that you know about God based off of you being in his presence, based off of who you know God to be. You see, Martha says, but Lord, said Martha, verse 39, the sister of the dead man, by this time there is a bad odor, for he had been there for 4 days when Jesus said, take away the stone. You see, even her belief is fickle, but yet and still, she still at this time is not going to stop her, God from doing what it is, or Jesus from doing what it is that he already said that he would do. And again, Jesus says this prayer before he calls Lazarus to come out, and it's so they will believe. Understand this about your belief. You better hang on and cling on to the word the Lord gave you. Don't rely on your sight. Don't rely on your understanding. Don't rely on what's going on. Cling to the word of the Lord. I'm encouraging you today. It must happen. I know you're tired. I know you're weary, but what God is going to do is going to make up and restore everything that you've lost and give you so much more. Wait on him. Be encouraged. His word must happen. Talk soon.